Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tome Knowledge, where we have a book full of D&D knowledge. It's right back there. It's the biggest one you could find. It's full of D&D knowledge, and we're just going to give it to you. Yeah, use your binoculars on that shelf.
Absorb it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just put it all in.
Bun asks, Max knows how to read. She's making fun of me because she knows I listen to audiobooks. Because I'll tell people I read a book, but I don't read it. I listen to it.
You're reading with your ears.
Yeah, I read with my ears. And there's nothing wrong with
Just
that.
like our awesome podcasters, our podcast listeners.
Man, what a great segue to thank all of our podcast listeners. And if you don't know, we do have a podcast. It's everywhere podcasts are sold. And we have our Tome Knowledge on podcast, so you can listen to it later. We have our campaign episodes, our full episodes are on podcast. And we also have our exclusive Out of Combats or only VOD in podcast. You can't find them live anywhere ever. So, and I will say, that the podcasts, if you are only doing your ear listening, they 100% sound better because the audio is adjusted and made to sound better. So if you're listening to us, we put extra care into it just to make sure it sounds good for all of you out there that are listening. Also, I know I mentioned kind of VODs for a minute, but we do have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/@casters and cantrips. We're actually there right now. And if you want, you can go check it out. And watch us live over there or check out our VODs over there as well.
It's magic. Two places at once.
It is magic. The magic of friendship. Or if you just want everything early because it's your podcast and you want it now, we do have a Patreon at Casters and Cantrips. So go check that out if you'd like to get early access to all of those things. And a couple of little goodies too, if you're in some of the more premium tiers. Things like early art concepts from Bun and things like that. Occasionally she'll drop those. It appears the chat has brought my worst nightmare to life, and that they're talking about me singing.
Apparently you're just as good as Celine. That's amazing.
No, I am absolutely not. I have never claimed that. It's because I watched the Olympics opener and then the Titanic song got stuck in my head, and I was walking downstairs to get something to drink and I was just singing a song. So I'm not anywhere near as good as Celine.
Never let go, Max. Refuse to immediately let go.
Yeah,
I was gonna say the performance. One of the performances is right up your alley, though.
Gojira is sick, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was so
love Gojira.
Freaking awesome. I think that was the best opener ever.
Mm-hmm. You were playing a fashion game, Bun, and you mentioned Titanic, but I also watched the Olympics earlier and listened to Celine sing. So both of those collided into that. Enough about me singing. If you don't know already, allegedly I can hold a tune occasionally after much hard work and practice. But the thought of singing in public terrifies me. So anyway, that's not what we're here for. Welcome to the Maximus's Brain Corner, where you learn all of my fears. And then all of my esteemed co-hosts like Moobs Like Jagger and Virtual Spectre can talk about them with me.
Let's talk about your fear of druids. How about that?
I fear Bunny Dreadful's anger if they mess up druids.
I think so far I didn't get to. So normally I'm the one who watches the video with Jeremy Crawford and his friend who just says yes or cool or perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't know his name. I apologize. I should probably look into that. I got through half of it because it was a longer video and I had a lot of work to do today, so I didn't get a chance to. But so from what I listened to, so far everything is pretty cool. I don't see where the anger comes from, but maybe that comes later, towards the later levels.
It can't be as bad as Ranger, right?
Oh, man, when they have a thing for druids that I wish they should just give to rangers, because I'm an old guy, I'm an old head, and 3.5 rangers had
here we
animal
go.
companions, just like druids. But they just eliminated that. They just made it a subclass. But it should be all the class, all the subs.
Back
Anyway.
here comes old man moved back in my day in D&D
Back
3
in my day,
and 3.5.
3.5, because before 3.5 was 3.0, but then they had to fix things because 3.0 things were broken and not bad broken. We used to call it OP, which was overpowered. Now
You
OP
both
means
are you both are
original
young
poster.
whippersnappers. I was playing when D&D was on a little pamphlet.
They called it THACO back in my day, and no one knows what that is anymore. And the negative numbers was better because positive number was worse.
Oh
Man.
boy.
Alan knows.
Okay. So if you don't know what we're doing and what we're referring to is last Tome Knowledge, we talked about the Ranger changes. I don't want to go back over it again. There were a lot of emotions in that episode, and it would behoove you to go listen to the episode. Wasn't last week because I was out of town, but the week before that, where we talked about that. But this week we're talking about druids, and it seems that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And these we're calling like the 2024 PHP changes, just because Wizards of the Coast are releasing all new books. So a lot of these things are getting updated or changed. Most people are calling it like 5.5, D&D update, whatever you call it. It's druids this week. So speaking of druids, there's one right there. And I will say I have been, and I don't want to say like, I almost said pleasantly surprised. I'm not surprised because they usually have really good art in WotC books and things for D&D, as long as it's not done by AI. Ooh, deep cut. That wasn't their fault. That was someone else's fault. It wasn't WotC's fault, but anyway. Deep cut for a months ago episode we talked about. But yeah, I like this depiction of a druid. You've got an orc, possibly could be a half orc. I don't know. We can talk about that when we talk about the species update, which might have some spicy opinions in there. I don't know. I think my favorite thing about this art is the bird. I don't know. I like that he's got a little bird in his hand.
Just a little bird guy.
It's an interesting take, especially all the scars, which I can only assume are from animals, which don't know why druids fighting animals, but maybe they're not from animals. I don't know. Could be something bit them.
I love the kind of the opposites of this art. Like you got this I'm assuming this is a moon druid because of all the battle scars and like the teeth mark in the shoulders and there's like how the armor is. But then it's just he's got a little guy. Just a little bird friend.
Name of the bird?
I was gonna ask that.
I knew it.
Oh yeah, I was like, instead of naming the character, let's name the bird. I would name that bird King Richard. I don't know why. First thing that came to mind.
I was thinking Thomas.
Good one. Moves.
Yeah. Cornelius. I like it. It's a good one.
That's a good one. I like it. Yeah, I don't know. I like I'm genuinely happy with all of the new art that's been coming out. I think sometimes they lean into some of the like stereotypical art of the classes. Sometimes they kind of subvert it a little bit, which I think is cool to have different representation for the classes and things like that. So
yeah, because the older books had iconics, and that was like their celebrity head figure for the class. Like they like there was lore, there's a backstory, there's a name for the iconics that represented the classes. So I guess not so much with the new books.
I hope there's more art, because usually in the player's handbook it was just like, here's the class, here's one piece of art for it. I hope there's more sprinkled in.
Was that Drizzt?
Drizzt?
Was that one of those guys?
Ranger, yes.
Yeah, he's an iconic. Yeah, but
Very much so.
That's the only one I know.
I think if you'd think a little bit, you'd come up with some other iconics. I think you could.
I played that one D&D game, and I just remember just.
So basically, as we scroll down in here, it says that Wild Shape functions largely the same in 2024 as it is in 2014, but they've made a lot of changes to streamline some things and make it easier to access that feature. So they're going over some of like the broad changes, and I like this specific chart. I'm pointing this way, but it's actually over here on the stream, so I'll point in the opposite direction. It's actually on both my screens because I like dark mode, so it's over here.
Oh nope, this way.
But I like there's a side by side comparison here because typically when we do these things, I'll have to pull up the class and like read through. But since this one is focused more on Wild Shape and the Circle of the Moon Druid, they have like a little nice side by side here for us. So I don't know. I'll read a couple of these, then we can kind of switch off whenever we feel like it. So.
Yeah.
2014 on the left, 2024 on the right. A big thing is Wild Shape used to be an action for everybody else except for Moon Druids. Now it's a bonus action for everybody. I think as long as they kind of boost up some of the Moon Druids stuff that they can do, which I think they have, I think it's an okay change. To be honest.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Every druid, regardless of what circle they pick, should experience wild shaping, which 2024, as we'll go into later, adds more things, not just for moon druids, but for other druids to make use of their wild shapes when they're not specialized in it.
Yeah, because I think it is kind of like a core feature of the class. It's kind of that even if you're not doing combat wild shapes all the time, there's something to be said about a lot of the utility of it too.
Oh yeah.
The number of uses, I like what they're doing here. Previously it was just 2 uses. That's what you got. You can get it back on, I believe, a short rest. I don't know if that was just moon druids or not. And then unlimited uses at level 20, which to be honest, like who cares? Like I get it. Level 20 is super powerful, but like on a show of hands, everyone in the chat here, how many of y'all have played a level 20 character? Either be it a one shot or a campaign that actually got there. Moops. I haven't. I haven't played a level 20 character.
It's really hard to do late game D&D because of like basically characters are essentially gods, and you have to send godlike encounters to keep things challenging. So it's tough. High level campaigns are really tough.
Power creep in that, and like kind of what you were saying is, I think it's easier to pull off in a one shot, to be honest, because then you can cater it and just have to do one sort of thing. But going a campaign up to that level, it just makes it very, very, very difficult. But with that being said, in 2024, they start with 2 uses at level 2, and then they get 3 uses at level 6, 4 uses at level 17. I like that because it feels like it kind of grows up with your character.
Yeah, because I played druids quite a bit, and I found 2 shapes were rather limiting, especially because, like, yeah, like you said, like I like to use, and then even Bun likes to use wild shapes for utility purposes more than combat. So it kind of sucks that you have to be extra protective of like, oh, I'll only get 2, and then I don't want to do a short rest and blah blah blah. You know, so I like that it scales as you level, giving you more opportunities to wild shape.
Speaking of rests, the next one's replenish your use of it, and I'll do this one and then I can trade it off. So in 2014, the only way to get it back was you finish a short or a long rest, and then you get all your uses back. Now it's a little more nuanced in 2024. So when you take a short rest, you get 1 use back. I think that's cool. You shouldn't get all of your uses back on a short rest. You finish a long rest, you get them all back. Makes total sense. Get all your powers back after a long rest. At level 5, there's a wild resurgence. So you can expend a spell slot to get 1 back. Very cool. Similar to how sorcerers can do things to get sorcery points or spells and all that. Or it also works backwards too. You can spend one, use your wild shape to get a spell back. I like that.
Yep.
And then of course the level 20 is when you roll initiative and you have no wild shape, you get one. That makes sense for level 20. I like that. I don't know. It seems like unless you're a warlock, nobody wants to take a short rest, which is weird to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if people just are adverse to short resting because they're afraid something bad will happen when you short rest or something, but I don't know. I feel like not a lot of the classes utilize the like a short rest other than just getting hit dice or getting their health back with by hit dice.
Yeah, I don't. It's. I think they made it more complicated than it needs to be. Like, you only get one back on a short rest, right? Or before it was like all or nothing, or not all or nothing, but it just like adds more things people need to learn or be aware of, or just have in their memory banks. Yeah, I don't know why people are averse to short rest. I think did they change short restoration in 2024?
It's an hour still. I'm pretty sure.
But still an hour. So yeah. But it's like it kind of gamifies it, right? If you have both a druid and a warlock in your party, which we do in campaign 2, like
Mm-hmm.
we're taking a lot of short rests because we're limited on resources, and we're basically gimped without it. But yeah, the wild resurgence, super cool. Good way for especially moon druids to use their unused spells to get more wild shapes back. But only once per long rest though, so you get an extra one.
Mm-hmm. Everybody gets one.
All right. Moving forward, I'll take over. Hit points in wild shape. So 2014 druid. When you transform, you assume the hit points and hit dice of the beast. Now in 2024, when you transform, you gain temporary hit points equal to your druid level. So this where I can understand where Joe or Bun might get upset is you're missing out on a buttload of hit points if you're trying to be a tank moon druid, if you're only getting temporary hit points instead of hit points of a bear. I guess it makes it easy.
I have a hot take on this one, but I want to see if VS has any thoughts before I just lay in.
Look, I have no experience with Druid. Haven't played one. But I have seen enough people play it, and I understand there are particular strategies for picking certain wild shapes, and some of those are literally boiled down to I'm going to be our tank. And when we're in a fight, I'm transforming into this because it's going to give me more survivability. This seems like it really hurts them. At least that particular playstyle.
And my thought on that, to your point, VS, is good. Because and this is a hill that I will die on here. Most druid players, especially moon druids, I will say most in my experience, the wild shape to pick is the one that gives you the most HP more often than not, and then a couple of others that have some very unique things that they can do. With this, all your wild shapes give you the same HP, so that your decisions are much wider, because you can find all sorts of people talking on the internet, whatever, about what are the best wild shapes to take because these are trash, these are trash, these are trash kind of stuff. This levels the playing field for all the potential wild shapes, because you no longer have to worry how much HP they give you, because every single one of them gives you the exact same amount of HP, and they're 10 hit points. So you don't have to worry about like, where do I write down my new hit points and where do I keep my old hit points and how do I keep track of this? They're 10 hit points. There's already a place in your character sheet for it. It works how they always work. Boom, there it is. And then now you can look at your wild shapes and think about what cool things does this animal do that I care about. There.
Okay, I want you to put a pin on that, Max, because if I recall when we first reviewed the new Druid during the playtest, the Unearth Arcana playtest, that
Mhm.
they're changing, and I'm curious to see if this is what their direction they're still moving towards. Because it was the thing that we were upset with, or at least maybe disagreeable with, where you don't pick an animal anymore, you pick a form, and those forms no longer have special abilities that you would want to utilize.
They walk that one back. The next
Okay.
iteration, it was that you pick a form and it's just a template. They walk that back the next playtest because everyone hated that.
That was going to be kind of a counterpoint. Is I like the idea that kind of standardizing the HP seems like it would push more people to try different wild shapes. That is entirely dependent on what the wild shapes offer. And I
Mhm.
still, unless they make some changes to some creatures or something, I still think you're going to have people gravitating towards particular ones, no
Yeah.
matter
Let's
the circumstance.
let's find out as we move forward. I don't think this goes into the forms. I think later in the blog they may go into the known shapes, but beast form limitations. So in 2014, at level 2, you can only have CR 1/4, no swimming or flying. And then level 4, you can swim, but you still don't get to fly. It moves up to CR half. And the CR is the challenge rating of what beast you could turn into. Level 8 goes up to CR 1, and I believe this is non-moon druid. This is just all druids.
Mhm.
Uh, with who aren't moon druids. And then it must be a creature you've seen before, and your ability to speak is limited to your capabilities of the beast form. So in 2024, still the same CR at level 2, CR 1/4, no flying speed, but swim is okay at level 2, but you're limited to 4 known forms. And level 4, that goes up to 6, and the scaling is the same as the 2014 Druid. And then at level 8, you know 8 known forms. And when you finish a long rest, you may replace one of your forms with an eligible one. And you can speak in beast form, which is that's pretty cool. That's
So I like the idea of having known forms that you pick per day because I know that some players will struggle with just the vast amount of choices that you would have to choose from. I need a wild shape. Which beast do I do? Let me pull out Monster Manual and like flip through every single beast to find that one. This way, you can have. This is what I tell people to do with spellcasters. You have like your big 3. These are always my 3 beasts, and maybe you changed up one or 2 new ones a day. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think speaking's cool. I don't know. What do you think? And I'm going to cover
uh,
something that Bun said here in a minute.
I think it's maybe I'm probably thinking about what you're thinking what Bun said about speaking in beast form. Like that's up to you as a player. If you want to make animal noises, make animal noises. But if you want to verbally speak as a beast, that's I think that's up to the player and if the DM's cool with it. Yeah, I agree that having limited forms makes you just pick easier. But I also don't like it at the same time. I like my options. So it feels limiting, but also helpful at the same time. Like in my opinion.
All right.
End comment.
I
Comment.
I will say um something that Bun said
Uh-huh.
earlier. She might come over here if I keep doing this, but that's okay. She mentioned something that now the health's all the same. She's just gonna pick animals that have pack tactics. But I will say it is harder to say that that is like the best animal now because now it's based on your player choice and how you choose to play your wild shape. If you only pick animals that are pack tactics, you're not tanking. There's probably forms that have special abilities or things that make you a better tank too. So I think that that's okay if you only want to pick forms that have pack tactics because that's a very particular playstyle that you'd want to make as a choice. You don't have to worry about HP. Let's see what happened. Let's see. If you don't know Bunny Dreadful in the chat, she's one of the players in our campaign, and she plays a druid, and she's very passionate about druids.
She is doing the tank tactics that
Yeah.
you guys mentioned earlier. Like 100%.
Mhm.
Super helpful last fight.
Yeah. Mhm.
Bunny Dreadful refuses to acknowledge this rule change, and I'm gonna speak loudly because she's typing in all caps. Ever. I will fight you.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying about, oh, I saw a snake in the jungle, now I'm going to turn it into a snake. It's a cool storytelling moment. Okay, I get that. I still think that the limited forms outweigh that, to be honest. Because if you know ahead of time you're going into a jungle, you can pick a snake.
What if what I mean, what if when you saw a creature or observed a new creature, then at the next long rest,
Mm-hmm.
that creature is then added to your known, but you can't, you would have to swap or replace one of your other knowns with that one if you want to choose the new one.
What? I'm
That
curious
way,
what
there's
the
still the element of like, we're in a new environment. Oh, there's this new creature I've not observed before. I'm going to observe it. Next long rest, I'm going to try and add that to my repertoire.
You have described the fourth bullet point, VS.
I know.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Big brain
BS.
energy.
Yeah. So, wait, which one are we on now?
Damage and
Damage.
Useful limitations.
Yeah. So in 2014, no adjustments to damage for wild shape forms for base Druid. 2024 can select the option of Primal Strike at level 7, granting an additional 1d8 of cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage when you hit a creature using a weapon or a beast form attack. Damage type is chosen on hit. Damage increases to 2d8 at level 15.
I like that.
Cool.
I like that. I mean, Bun, if you want to get on the microphone here and say your piece, I think everyone would appreciate it. You don't have to talk into the mic in front of me.
there's no rules on this show.
Yeah, if you want, I think VS give a very good RP reason that who's to say that you don't have to study and figure it out on a long rest and figure out how to turn into it.
Well, I say we go through it, and then at the very end, Bunny Dreadful could come on the mic and expel all her grievances.
She gets her rebuttal or gets her cross examination.
Yes.
Bun is angry outside of my office door right now, by the way. I just saw her.
Like, all right, she's gonna be, hear me out, Chad. This is why this is all bullshit. And then she can let it all out.
I mean, replace one known. I mean, you could just change it back though, DB, at your next long rest.
Well, it depends on the forms, right? Like how forms work, because you're no longer restricted to it must be a creature you've seen before. That's not in the bullets in 2024.
The limitation comes from the limited number you have now.
Yeah, you don't forget. It's just you get a limited number of uses, like what spells you prepare.
I mean, it would, yeah, Zeus, it would make for some funny RP moments. The Druid trying to recreate the new animal they saw. Comes out all weird at first.
I mean, that's Emmy's whole shtick, right? Because she's never been to the surface world, so she's seeing animals for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I don't think it's that far removed from having to prepare spells. I don't think it's that abstract of a concept in my mind, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But some people feel differently. Last one on this list, anyway.
Yes, if you'll finish off this table.
Sure. Next bullet point. Wild Companion. Optional rule in Tasha's that allows you to expend wild shape uses to cast Find Familiar. In 2024, official part of the base 2024 Druid class. You can also use a wild shape use or spell slot to cast Find Familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I like it. Give it to Rangers.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I liked the shift in the game of having like more emphasis put on like preparing things. Because I think that it's not like I forgot how to change into this wild shape. It's that I have prepared how to change into these number of wild shapes, or I have prepared these number of spells. And that can look like however you want for your character in an RP sense. I just don't think it's that different of a concept than other spellcasters, including Druid in itself. But other people, I mean, you disagree, and that's totally valid too.
I think in the sense of combat, it's better if all parties are prepared and knowing what they're gonna do, because sometimes DMs get blindsided and the player's like, I'm gonna turn into this animal, and then you're like, oh shit, now I gotta look at the stats, I gotta find the token, I gotta assign it to you. Obviously, if you're playing in person, it's much easier, but like it's helping streamline combat, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Combat can be a slog sometimes.
Yeah, and that's and I will say, as a lens of my opinions coming from this too, is I'm generally taking it from a DM standpoint, unless it's a class I very regularly play, which Druid I do not. I will say I do not regularly play a Druid. So, in my opinion, anything to streamline combat and make it easier for people, I'm for it. Because there's some times where it takes too long for me, but that's okay. Moving on to the closer look at the wild shape rules. This can be a long one, boys. We're not even into the Moon Druid stuff yet.
I think that's the only subclass they cover. So
Yeah. I'll look through these and we can do a little bit of a paraphrasing because I want to get to the meat and potatoes of the Moon Druid. So basically, for like using wild shape, they're just saying it's a bonus action now. Cool, we got that bullet point. Staying in wild shape. I hate how they editorialize this stuff. I don't like the little quips and anecdotes. Like, one of my biggest personal frustrations is like, I'm not reading this for your personal take edit. I'm reading it for the information. But if you're not the intended audience for that, I will say that's a me problem. So used to, when you were in wild shape, if you lost the hit points of whatever you're wild shaping into, you get knocked out of that form, right? But now it doesn't work that way. You get temp HP for the change, but you don't. I believe you don't get knocked out after you lose the temp HP. You stay as the animal until you're knocked out, knocked unconscious. So yeah, you've got a much bigger pool, because it's your temp hit points and your Druid hit points holistically. You don't get knocked out by losing your temp HP.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And if I guess if the player wants, then the DM's cool with it, which I don't see why not. If they wanted to revert to their humanoid form, I don't see why that wouldn't be an issue, just for RP flavor.
Yeah. But yeah, you've got more. It makes up for, I think, a lot of like the HP version of it. It's like, oh well, you're staying in the form longer, so like you don't get knocked out of it. Wild Companion, we talked about this, being able to cast Find Familiar with a wild shape usage, which is brought in as a main feature instead of optional. A lot of the things you'll see in changes here were optional Tasha's features that they're just molding into it. Let's see, and then Elemental Fury. I just almost said Elemental Furry, which I guess still tracks.
Yeah,
You're wild shape Druid.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get Elemental Fury, which allows you to get those primal strikes, or you can do potent spell casting, which adds your wisdom modifier to your Druid cantrips, which is also cool. So if you're not a combat-y kind of wild shape, there's an option for you as well for your cantrips. Then we talk about the damage increase, and then it goes into known shapes a little bit here. So let's see what they're saying here. I think they've said pretty much what we've said, talking about it's not unlike having a prepared spell list ready to go, which druids already have to do. It's the players already have the stat blocks ready to go, kind of helping the other players in the DM streamline combat. It brings in some role play inspirations, but that's up to each individual player. I don't really care what this person says about your role play inspirations. But yeah, they're pretty much covering what we talked about, which is kind of funny in that. So Moon
I wish
Druid.
they would go into like a little more, elaborate more on like what the forms are. Considering you don't have to know or see the beast, it's just like a persona you embodied as a druid. So like this is my bear form, and I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that it's just going to be the same thing as any beast that you can in the manual or whatever. There we see King Richard and the now druid in wolf form. I like that picture, honestly, as a callback with the little cardinal on the back.
Well, yeah, the guy, he retains his scars in wolf form, which is pretty cool.
That layer of details is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Good job, John Grello. You
good job.
It.
I also like that the wolf's howling and the bird's also looking like it's howling.
A little squawk, yeah. Zeus, to your point, it said you have to have seen the beast before you could select it as a known form. It says in the 2014 version that bullet point was not there for the 2024 version. It might still be a thing, but it was not listed unless I missed.
It wasn't listed,
so that might be a change. But you could still do that limitation if you wanted. Some people prefer to play that way. Let's see. Circle of the Moon, if someone else wants to give this a stab.
I can go for it.
Go for it.
All right. I'll just start from the top. Circle of the Moon Druid has always been a subclass that doubles down on wild shape. If you're worried that improvements to the base class take away from the impact of picking this iconic druid class, fret not. Let's quickly take a look at some of these things that we've changed. Level 3, Circle Forms. The 2024 Circle of the Moon Druid gets a huge boost to your beast forms. At level 3, your first level in this subclass, your AC in beast form, becomes 13 plus your wisdom modifier, unless your beast form's AC is higher.
Sick.
But you also gain 3 times your druid level in temporary hit points, meaning you'll get 9 temporary hit points at level 3, all the way up to 60 at level 20. The 2024 Circle of the Moon Druid maximum CR for the form equals your druid level divided by 3.
60 hit points at 20 seems like one hit that you'll absorb.
Depending on what you got going on.
I like the AC thing. Keeps it nice and simple, and definitely boosts AC for like weaker beasts that you could turn into.
Yeah, I think that's a smart thing to do, given that you're going to be consuming your own HP pool while in beast form now more. So the chance to not get hit will go a long way in helping that.
What's also interesting in this is it says the Circle of the Moon's Druid maximum CR for the form equals your Druid level divided by 3. Druids used to not get that in Moon Druid until they were level 6 in 2014. So now that's an improvement in like the beasts that you can sort of turn into at earlier levels.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's a good point from Alan. It makes them mad, which mad versus sad is single ability dependent versus I think it's multiple ability dependent.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes them mad. It makes them less mad. Sorry. Yeah. I'm not sure what you were saying. So it makes them less mad. I would argue that Circle of the Moon Druid in 2014 is is the only subclass that you could effectively play if you roll like total garbage stats, like 10s across the board, because you could just turn into your wild shape when things go wrong and everything's okay. But
Yeah.
Shall I continue? Or
Go
are we
for it.
switching? All right. Still level 3. Circle of the Moon spells. Like the 2014 Druid, the base class gains the ability to cast spells in beast form at level 18, except when a spell consumes a material component or requires a component of a specific cost. The 2024 version can start casting spells from your Circle of the Moon spells table as early as level 3. This means you don't have to choose between staying in your beast form or casting Cure Wounds on an ally.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
To
Yeah.
answer your question, DB, is there any other AC calculations in 5e that don't use Dex? And you also pointed out that they have to use Dex when they're not in wild shape too. I think as a base, like just for a class, anything that's in heavy armor doesn't use Dex at all. So that's one portion of it. So your sort of heavy armored characters don't have to rely on Dex at all. There are spells that adjust it to where your AC is now this plus this. I think like, well, I was gonna say Barkskin, but I think Barkskin still takes Dex. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that, but it is a good thought.
I think Barskin just gives you flat AC bonus.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, 16. It is a 16 if it's lower than that.
Oh, I misunderstood. Yeah. I misunderstood what you said, DB. I know druids can't wear heavy armor. I was just answering the question: is there any other AC calculations that don't involve Dex, just like across the board? Obviously, druids can't wear heavy armor, but yeah, that is a good thought of looking for instances where your Dex doesn't matter for like AC wise. Good examples: Tortle. Your AC is just 17. We have a Tortle character in our campaign as well.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty nice. But yeah, that's super cool. They get a spell list that they can cast while they're in beast mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like that.
Let's see. I can improve circle forms at level 6. At level 6, your Circle of the Moon Druid can choose to deal an attack normal damage or radiant damage. This replaces the 2014 feature of making your mundane attacks magical damage. I guess
I
that's
like
cool.
that. Puts the moon back in Moon Druid. Because really, radiant damage is the only thing that would fit like moon, because the moon's lit up from the sun and it's reflecting. Yay!
Yep. And what is it? What's the moonbeam does radiant damage, so makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point, Alan. That there aren't a lot of enemies that straight up are resistant to radiant or immune, other than I guess like angels, stuff like that.
Azamars.
Yeah, it's a very little resisted in most enemies that you encounter.
But yeah, you can choose to do normal damage as well. It doesn't have to be radiant damage. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. You want to take on Moonlight Step?
Yeah, I'll do it. Moonlight Step. It sounds like a new TikTok dance. I'm just kidding.
Mention doorstep
or an Elden Ring spell.
Moonlight Step, level 10. Okay, so interesting. The 2024 Circle of the Moon Druid no longer gains the elemental wild shape feature. It has been replaced by the more moon flavored Moonlight Step, which allows you to use a bonus action to teleport up to 30 feet in an unoccupied space and gain advantage on your next attack roll before the end of the turn. I'd be curious about the amount of times that you can do this. because it's just Misty Step with extra steps. But I
Yeah.
like the fact that you get advantage on your next attack roll after you do it.
I'm assuming, yeah, okay. Yeah, but why being an elemental beast is super cool. Why did they get rid of that?
I could see it flavor wise because you get some elemental strikes later on, like the primal stuff earlier on. But I could see them doing a very elemental specific druid later down the line. So I'm
Like
wondering
a
if they're
blast.
not gathering up materials for that. That's not a great excuse for it. But yeah, if they do an elemental druid, I might play a druid because that sounds pretty cool. But
I prefer. I don't know. I prefer the elemental wild shape rather than a misty step with advantage.
yeah, I feel the same. Like Bun says, like I'm not like super happy or excited, but I'm not like mad at them trying to actually make the moon druid have more moonness to them.
And just speed. Yeah, I don't know. Just then instead of elemental wild shape, just call it moonlight wild shape, and you're just infused with moonlight, and you're glowing, and you emit all this bright light, and you're super badass.
Mm-hmm. It does give you some utility on using your bonus action if your form doesn't use it at all too. It also gives you a lot of mobility around the battlefield too.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
I'm
I
assuming
guess
you can do that in beast form.
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. Lunar form. Yeah, that is a good point, Alan. It doesn't say it has limitations, so the only thing to assume is that it's unlimited, which is pretty cool for level 10. But lunar form, asking ye shall receive, sir.
Oh shit! Okay.
Level 14. Lunar form. Once per turn, you deal an additional 2d10 radiant damage to a target you hit with wild shape form. Okay, so give an example. At level 15, you deal base damage, 2d10 radiant, plus 2d8 damage of your choice from primal strikes. I think they could have done more than this, than just here's some extra radiant damage, have fun. Because when you say lunar form, that conjures up like, oh, I get a cool new thing I can turn into, but really it's like here's some more damage.
Yeah, maybe like an aura of some kind around your beast form that has some benefits to your teammates. I don't know. For level 14, damage boost. It's fine, but not that amazing.
Yeah, when I hear lunar form, I'm a big One Piece fan. I think of the minks. But yeah, I guess this kind of works. I can see why they want to step away from like only when the moon is out you can do this, because then that's very limiting. Yeah, I know that's more damage. That's cool. I kind of feel like moon druids lack in damage anyways.
Yeah.
Because they're limited to their beast form, and this just gives them like, man, you're rolling 2d10s and 2d8s at level 14. That's pretty dang good.
And your base damage too, on top of that.
Yeah, plus base damage. So a lot of dice.
Yeah, and something I think that there's some talk in the chat about like radiant damage in the moon. I think that's the best sort of bucket they can put like moon flavored stuff in is radiant, because I don't know any of the elemental stuff really fits. Force doesn't fit. Like it makes sense for the options, and I don't think it would warrant them creating a whole new like damage type just
Twilight
for this
damage.
Yeah. I think it's the best
light
bucket. Yeah.
You can flavor it as, instead of like radiant of the sun, it's a white gleaming light, like a sparkly light, and you could probably flavor it however you want to.
I'd be curious to look in the player's handbook to see like how they describe the different damage types, what radiant says. I might do that real quick just for my
radiant
own.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Max, because radiant damage dealt by a cleric's flame strike spell or an angel's smiting weapon sears the flesh like fire and overloads the spirit with power.
Oh, sick.
Thanks to the little tooltips if you hover over radiant damage.
Oh,
That's the 2014 rules of the definition of radiant damage.
yeah. Let me take this over here and see where it talks about Yeah, it doesn't really say too much about that. It really leans it into the holy stuff, but um yeah, I think another thing that Zeus said earlier in the chat is where things get really interesting are the spells. So kind of what we talked about of Circle the Moon can start casting spells as early as level 3. So they have their Circle the Moon spells table. So that's where things get interesting, are casting spells while you're wild shape. That adds a lot of interesting like dynamics to that, other than just I'm a sack of hit points.
Yeah, I would love to see the chart. What spells are included in the Moon Druid's table specifically for beast spells?
Yeah.
And then how they categorize forms, other than as just literally just you just pick the beast that just doesn't have fly, and you're good to go. And of course, in line with your CR beast limit.
Mm-hmm.
I know because you said they walk back, but yeah, previously they had like form of land, form of sea, form of air, and it was like you were no longer a beast.
That was ass.
that was garbage.
I liked what they were trying to do because like it helped with Ranger Beastmaster stuff in a way.
Mhm.
But I think druids like having the options. But I think like now I'm curious to see what beasts are going to be included in the monster manual. I know that they've also said that they're going to include more creatures in the player's handbook, so that people that want to do find familiar or that want to have these different wild shape forms, that they'll have an abundance of options already available to them when the book comes out, so they don't have to wait and purchase the monster manual immediately. But
I think I overall like what they've presented for the Moon Druid. It seems like they're really trying to flesh out a theme with the subclass. Like, yes, a lot of the stuff is radiant, but for somebody that comes from like a Dark Souls background, that puts cool images in my head of like in Dark Souls you have two forms of like holy magic damage. You have sunlight magic, which is like a yellow bright light, and then you have the dark moon magic, which is more of like a bluish sparkly, but they both do holy damage. So it kind of conjures this like moon blue sparkly sort of creatures with fiery sparkly blue claws or something. I don't know. It
praise
seems
the
cool.
moon. The time of the moon is now.
There you go. I mean, if even though it says radiant, like you can flavor it any way you want. This is Dungeons and Dragons. Do whatever makes your character look cool, as long as you and your DM agree with it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of these things, it's going to take playing the character and actually feeling it in a game, because like a lot of the stuff doesn't really jump out at me, but we don't have the spell list that you can cast while you're in wild shape form. The Moonlight Step seems kind of meh until probably you use it in combat or going nuts with it. So yeah, it might be one of those things where you just have to take it in.
Yeah, they're not giving away everything. They're talking about major changes, and then you'll get the whole picture once the books are out, and then you can see everything
and
in its full entirety.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Circle of the Moon. They get the AC bonus. Other ones don't. So the 13 plus your whiz is only Circle of the Moon.
And the HP boost when you wild shape.
Yeah.
Like the tripled or whatever. What is it they say? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interesting stuff. I think a lot of this stuff will take playing them, but not the most exciting. Like, wow, holy crap, awesome changes, but I don't think it's bad. I don't feel upset like I did the last time we did this.
Yeah. I think it's also cool for they're giving uses of wild shapes for non-moon druids as well. Like to be able to utilize it. Like they can sack a wild shape to gain a spell slot back, um or replenish or vice versa too. So that's pretty cool.
Now I want an elemental specific druid with elemental forms and all the stuff that goes along with it.
Like a lightning moon druid, something like that.
Let me change into like a little like fire method. And do some stuff like that kind of stuff. Like some shaman vibes, like what Bun's saying. Yeah,
That'd be cool for sure.
But yeah, I think that's I don't hate it. I think a lot of the changes are good, but it'll really depend on while we're in play. And just as a reminder, this only covered Wild Shape and Moon Druid. It doesn't cover all of the Druid stuff. This is one of the ones that they particularly focus on this. So if you have any other thoughts or comments, feel free to let us know in Discord. So go check out our discord.gg/caches and cantrips and tell us why you like or don't like the new Druid changes. Bun, do you want to come in and say your comments, or do you want to save that? You have comments and thoughts?
Bring her in. Give her. She needs to let the world know.
Yeah. Oh, please. Yes. Hold on, let me unplug myself and let you sit down. Here, you can take over. Go for it.
It's beautiful.
I just have one thing to say to all my fellow druids in the world. We don't have to acknowledge or accept this. If all of us unite, there's nothing they can do about it. Let us dance under the full moon together. Bye.
Thank you, Buddy Dreadful, for that, for uniting the druids together.
Okay. I know where you got those antlers. Where'd you get all those fake plants? Do you just have those in case of druid break glass or something? Like a full bouquet of stuff. Plant growth. Excellent. Fantastic.
That said, if you don't like the 2024 druid, you can just use the 2014 druid because they say it's compatible. So
yeah, have at it. No one can ever take it away from you. Well, what we can take away from you is this episode. So that's it. It's all done. Thanks everybody for watching and hanging out with us. On Friday we'll be back for Caches and Cantrips. Things are getting interesting over there, so come join us Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, for our campaign. Things are getting a little spicy, so you don't want to miss that. You were in a very precarious situation last time, so I'm interested to see what happens. But thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
bye.
Bye.